Hello Expressions, my name is Samgelo Matutu. We are here at Newtown today talking about the readiness of schools opening on the second wave of COVID-19. We are going to find out from young people what are their views and opinions on the academic year on 2021.
So kulo 2021 sicela ukuthi mhlambe igovernment bangabe ngasilekelela ukuthi mhlambe sikwazi ukufunda kahle ngoba last year abaningi bethu abakwazanga ukuphasa kahle ngama results abebefisa ukuphasa ngawo. Kodwa sicela ukuthi kulonyaka mhlambe masingaba nama extra lessons kakhulukazi abayenza umatric.
Kulonyaka siqeda ukudlula kuwo kade kunzima kakhulu 2020. Sithanda ukuthi sinichazele ukuthi nje siphamisa ama socks lenyaka singena kuwo nje ngoba kunzima nje nasezikolweni nje kunzima ukuthi sibiyele kodwa sitheme nje ukuthi noma sibiyele esikoleni siphamisa ama socks sikwazi ukufunda siphase.
As we all know ukuthi coronavirus islimazile in all aspects. Let's find out ukuthi bona laba abathi baya esikoleni bazimisele kangakanani ukuthi bazilungiselele for lo nyaka ka2020 ngesikolo.
Ngikwazi ukuzimisela mina personally esikolweni invest isikhathi sami ezincwadini zami ngoba kakhulukazi mhlambe last year abanye besifunda through ilokhu njani i-social media maye besingakwazi abanye sihlushwa indaba ze-data nani kodwa kulonyaka sokwazi usama nathi ukuthi kusimisele nje esikolweni.
Ezike beshilo nomunye ke washo wathi ke kulonyaka sidinga ifocus kakhulu ngoba ziningi izinto ezenzakalayo la ngaphandle kodwa ke masifaka ifocus yethu esikoleni si-investa futhi kakhulu into ebaluleke kuthina njengoba beshilo ukuthi besiphelele ngama-data besiphelele izinto ezithize kodwa mina ngithi into mayibalulekile kuwe uzokwazi ukuyenzela isikhathi besi-live expressions Newtown. Siyabonga.
You're watching Expressions, your #1 youth current affairs show. Right now, I am coming to you on location in Soweto, and I am speaking to Undate Matakanyi, who is representing the National Association of School Governing Bodies in South Africa. So let's get this conversation started. Ndate, a very warm welcome to Expressions.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
We are now entering into the second wave, and learners will be going back to school, and we're talking about primary and high school students. What is the state of readiness of our schools, especially making sure that our kids are safe?
The readiness of schools is for the Department of Education to provide enough protective equipments. There must be running water in schools, social distance must be observed, the mask must be provided in schools, sanitizers must be provided. They must also hire people who are now ensuring that they enforce this or they ensure that now there's compliance. So there must be staff because teachers will be concentrating on teaching, you know. So then there must be people who are ensuring that now there's compliance in schools. So that then we can talk of readiness. And the anxiety, the frustrations and everything of the parents, if it is good, then we are still going to struggle as we struggled last year to open the schools. So we must be very careful what we are saying now so that we must not be seen as people who do not provide proper leadership. So we must be able to provide proper leadership so that if schools are to open, they must once and for all open so that we know that we support our children, we support parents, we support our teachers, we support everybody in the school.
As the National Association of School Governing Bodies, are you confident that the teachers and the learners are going to be safe?
No, we are really not sure whether they will be safe, as I have already indicated that we have got a problem. I think the elephant in the room here is the Department of Education. They know the standard operation procedures. We were told that to stay healthy, to be safe, there are a number of things that you must do. One is that you must regularly wash your hands. And then we called upon the Department of Education and said, look, we know our schools and some of these schools do not have running water. Can you provide? So that it's a reality when you say, if you want to be safe, then regularly wash your hands. Now, we want our children, we want our teachers, we want everybody in the school to wash hands. And that's one other method. Then two, it's a question of social distancing. Now, classes, and we have been telling the Department of Education, it is abnormal to to have classes where you'll find that now a class is composed of 70 learners. It is educationally not sound. We just want to call upon the government to ensure that they support the education department, they ensure that the standard operation procedures are properly followed in the school. If then we say the health department is responsible for that, then we have to hire number of nurses or number of health workers in the school, so that in all those schools there is also health workers, so that our children, our teachers and everybody, our school government bodies, our principals are safe in the schools.
So we know that a vaccine is going to be administered sometime this month, and we know that healthcare workers are going to be prioritized. Do you think that teachers should also be prioritized?
Yeah, we are saying teachers are also essential service. They must be given this vaccine so that they're able to teach freely in schools. They cannot be the second essential and all those things. Equally, if the health workers are in the front line, equally to the teachers, children also must be considered to say, what is it that we do with these children? If it is possible, then they must also be provided with vaccine so that the teachers, the children, the principal, the school governing bodies are safe in the schools.
What do you think is the way forward? You've highlighted a lot of problems and challenges that we experienced in 2020 and that you are probably foreseeing for 2021. What are the solutions according to you?
I think the solution is to consider the all disadvantaged schools, all disadvantaged children, all disadvantaged education. So then that will be the answer, because the truth of the matter is that we don't know when is this pandemic going to, because question of vaccine then also is that is going to be given to prioritized people. Now it means that the poor schools are still going to suffer. So we are saying, whilst the vaccine is going to be considered for those ones, but now those standards that you have set, that if we follow those standards, then we'll be protected against pandemic. Then let's get all those equipments that are necessary for the school to run normally and healthily.
So that was my conversation with Ntate Mtakanye. And obviously there still is a lot that needs to be done to ensure that the schools are prepared for the 2021 academic year. We continue with this very important conversation after the break. You're watching Expressions. Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions. Today we're having a very important conversation about the readiness of our schools when it comes to the 2021 academic year. Now we're going to be having a very important conversation with Satu, and I do have one of the representatives on Zoom. Hello, Kolane. We want to get straight into this conversation. I mean, we want to find out from you, as Satu, I mean, are you happy with the announcement that has been made around postponing the opening of schools?
Our view has always been that, and you would recall that for the past 2 weeks, SATU has been making a passionate plea to say that the World Health Organization is advising all countries that are going through the second wave to actually wait and observe if infections can be on a decline for 14 consecutive days first from the peak before schools could be reopened safely. So SATU has been making that a very passionate plea to the Department of Basic Education. We were consulted as stakeholders, as organized labor. I can confirm that the plan was indeed delivered to us, that there would be a delay of 2 weeks. And indeed, we welcome that. We welcome that, Jacqueline, because we believe that it would be illogical to open schools whilst we're in the midst of the second wave of a pandemic, which we are told, by the way, is a bit more brutal than the first one. So we welcome this particular intervention. But what we are saying, what is very important again, Jacqueline, is that as we move closer to the 15th of February, we need to consistently check how the curve is behaving.
And Kolane, just maybe clarify for us, what exactly were your concerns? What is it that you were worried about in terms of getting the schools to be opened on the 27th?
It cannot make sense for us to want to go to school, whereas we are right in the midst of the peak of the second wave. Remember, Jacqueline, is that while schools could be a far much more better controlled environment, but again, the fact of the matter is that learners need to be transported from home to school, for instance. And therefore, what happens in between during that particular value chain? So there is a number of other elements that needed to be considered. And we are therefore saying that the scientific facts are advising us that the school system is a critical part of how you can manage or constrain the movement and mobilities within communities, and as a consequence, therefore try to limit the spread of a pandemic. So that was our primary concern, Jacqueline.
Yeah. What do you think the Department of Education is going to do differently in this at least extra time that you're giving them?
We will be advising the Department of Basic Education during this particular 2-week delay continuously as to what the developments are on the ground, because we have found more often than not, Jacqueline, we have found that the National Department of Basic Education may make pronouncements and say that we are ready. And then when you go back to the ground, you find that it is a completely different story. So we're going to be making that intervention as well, because the other issue that we're calling for is an emphasis on social services. For us, it is important. You see, the very fact that you had about 2,700 exam markers pulling out of the process out of fear of any COVID-related issues tells you that we are dealing with a lot of stress, we are dealing with a lot of anxiety, both as learners and as teachers. And we're saying that those are some of the issues that the Department of Basic Education must ensure that it works on and firms up within this particular 2-week day process.
Let's talk about the academic year. I mean, are you confident that teachers will be able to meet the demands of the academic year, especially now if you're only starting that academic year much later?
This pandemic has given us an opportunity to really reimagine and rethink how we do education. So what we have always called for is that we need to reprioritize the various learning concepts within the context of the curriculum, given the challenges that we're facing, because now we are seeing a number of days being cut off from the school calendar. So we're very anxious about that. But then again, this gives us an opportunity, Jacqueline, to sort of firm up all the other interventions that are necessary, such as off-site learning. This is one of the interventions that we really need to work on. We need to bring on board the community radio stations. We need to bring on board the SABCs. We know that already there is that particular approach, but then we need to frame it up to make sure that what it is intended to achieve, those off-site learning interventions do achieve that. And we can then make sure also that no child is left behind, because it concerns us that whilst we are out of class and are not able to teach, most of us in the township and rural schools, there are others who are having access to e-learning platforms, etc. So we're saying that we need to have this conversation as a country, and we need to make sure that whatever we do, no child is left behind.
So as we continue to have important conversations about the readiness of the 2021 academic year to begin, we are now having a conversation with the CoRSA's spokesperson, Uputu Douglas Ngobeni, who now joins us on Expressions. Thank you for your time on the show. Welcome to Expressions.
No, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, Douglas, I'm going to be direct. Are we ready for the 2021 academic year?
The only time we will come out to say that we are 100% ready is when vaccines have been provided for our learners, for our teachers. You will have seen so far our teachers are dying on a daily basis, and it is quite too risky to take learners into the classroom with the same teachers who are infected of the virus. And it is just very unfortunate that this new variant does not show these normal symptoms. So just imagine how many learners, how many teachers will die inside the classroom if we come here to say that no, we are absolutely ready for the reopening of schools.
So now there was a survey that was conducted in which it's representative of South Africans across the board, of which, of course, Glayo survey, about 53% of them said we're not ready for the 2021 academic year. What are you guys as CoRSA doing? Have you all started engaging with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we're ready for the 2021 academic year?
we are going to engage communities, because before one is a learner, that person is a member of a community. If there is a certain community, for example, where the COVID-19 second wave has stricken so hard, it means that that community is not ready to go back to the classroom. And speaking of the issue of equality, we will not say that this group has to go to school and the other group does not have to go to school. We are for the marginalized black masses of our learners. So for each and every decision which we take on behalf of the underprivileged, marginalized masses of our learners.
It's 2021 now. How are we going to be able to deal with issues of 2021 when 2020 is still outstanding itself?
Support is necessary in this regard. We are also calling upon parents of learners in the country to say that as soon as learners receive their results, they should not be judgmental, because the 2020 academic calendar or the 2020 academic year was very brutal to everyone. We are going to position ourselves, work hand in glove with the Department of Basic Education, to say that let us rather focus on the 2021 academic year, and if there are compromises which have to be made for the class of 2020, let so be it.
Okay, now the issue of vaccinations, Douglas, you feel that teachers are on the front line just as much as health workers are. Why do you feel that Otishala should be getting vaccinated first as well, if and when the vaccination becomes available?
A teacher can be in the same environment with a learner and that teacher is infected or the learner is infected, which you are going to finish the entire classroom. COVID-19 regulations say that there should not be more than 50 people indoors and what's on. You have got classes in Limpopo, you've got classes in the Eastern Cape, where learners are more than 100 in one classroom. So that on its own says that the government has to consider ama-teacher, they have to consider abafundi for the rollout of a vaccine.
Hey, Mobekedi, I think it's up to you to sort of decide whether we will actually get to where we need to get to, especially when it comes to that academic year. Are we going to be left behind? Well, that's up to a lot of us out there to sort of work together to make sure that this actually happens. We'll be back after this. You're watching Expressions.
Now, welcome back. You're still with Expressions, and this is your #1 youth current affairs show. We continue this very important conversation around the readiness of our schools to start with the 2021 academic year. Khona manje ke sikhulumisana noNandi Atterich, who's an educational psychologist and now joins us via Zoom. Hello, Nandi. Welcome to Expressions, and thank you so much for your time. Speak to us about the year that has been and the year that we're going into right now psychologically. How has this been for the kids?
I think it's been an overwhelming feeling for both parents, children, for educators as a whole. And I think what we're trying to do at the moment is to adapt in a world of uncertainty, where our anxiety levels are very high, our stress levels are very high, and we're not knowing what this year is going to hold for us.
What is the psychological impact of having, a global pandemic in our schools for the kids and for the teachers?
I think what we've got to keep in mind is that with every human being, we've got an emotional side and we've also got a psychological side. And if emotionally we're not okay, we're not equipped to be in a state of mind where we can actually learn. And so I think the emotional impact of this pandemic is having on our children is vast. And so we have to support them and we have to give them what they are yearning for at the moment. And I think speaking to that, it's about listening to our children, listening to their worries and addressing the concerns that they have. I think as parents, what we're trying to do at the moment and as educators is we're trying to safeguard them. And so they're almost left in the dark, but what they are seeing is panic. The world is panicking. And so they don't know what to do. We have to address their concerns and we have to listen to them and say to them that this is what we can expect going back to school.
as we're dealing with a global pandemic, many parents genuinely don't know what to do, what kind of support to give their children. What would you add to that? How do they support their children?
So for our younger ones, it's very much they're the explorers of our world and they observe. And so they need concrete apparatus in order to understand what is going on. So what I would recommend for our little ones is to show them pictures of what is going on at the moment in terms of we have to wear masks, we have to sanitize, we have to keep a social distance. So we have to prepare them and we have to address what is this going to look like. Our teachers are going to be wearing masks, we're going to be social distancing. At breaks, we can't play with our friends, which is what we normally encourage to do. With our older children, it's the academic demands that are placed upon them at the moment. We've seen last year in terms of academic performance, it did go down. And so what we need to do is we need to listen to them. We need to ask them before they go back to school, what are you concerned about? And address those concerns with a level of understanding and openness.
Quick parting shot with us. How do we ensure that we all sing from the same hymn book as learners, as teachers, as parents, as communities?
We're not all in the same boat. And I think what we need to understand at the moment is that we're all weathering the same storm. And so we are not in this alone. And if we have that level of understanding that we can reach out to other people, we need to communicate. We need to be able to tell people when we need help and be direct in terms of what we're asking for. Remember, we can only achieve expectations and meet expectations if we know what those are. As parents, talk to the teachers, tell them what your concerns are. As parents, we want control. We want to know that our children are being taken care of, that they're receiving the education that they're needing at this stage, both being taken care of and they feel like they are loved and they are heard in a nurturing environment. And that's hard as a parent because we've got to also maintain our own lives of having a job and then coming home. Boundaries are shifting at the moment as well, where we have to self-isolate. And so work, life, personal circumstances are now being merged. And so the boundaries are not there anymore.
Nandi Etheridge, we have to thank you so much for your time. She is an educational psychologist. Thank you so much for your time and expressions, and do keep safe.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. It's been a very good one. Sibongela kuwe Mbugeli for your participation enkundleni zethu zokuxhumana. From all of us here at Expressions, till next time, sale kahle.